Okay, then we have four. So we will get the show started. We'll call to order the special meeting of the Airport Commission at 4:01 p.m. Commissioners attending remotely, please acknowledge yourselves.
Helen Reilly?
Chip Mason.
Jim George. Next up is the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the contents of the agenda as presented?
So moved. Yeah, second.
Moved by Al and seconded by Helen. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We have our agenda and we move on to public forum. I don't see anyone online and no one in the room, Jesse. All right. Close down public forum. We'll move on to item 4. I would entertain a motion to approve the memo in our agenda packet pertaining to the snow removal equipment building and related agreements with Engelberth Construction, Passero Associates, and M&T Bank. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Helen, seconded by Jeff. Discussion. I'm not sure who's leading this one, Nick.
Yeah, I'll start it. Larry's gonna fill in the middle, and then Marie's gonna end it with some of the financial pieces. First, thank you for just jumping on real quick for this special meeting. This helps us hit some timelines for next week's the 29th Board of Finance and July 13th, which is the only City Council meeting for July. So this is extremely helpful. This project isn't a surprise to the commission. We've talked about this in the past. We've shared some images. What is new is the design is fully completed, which was funded under FAA grant funds, just the design portion of this project. And we've gone out to bid, we've received bids, and we've also gone out to bid with some financial, with some financing, which will be presented tonight. The building, high level stores are required maintenance and snow removal equipment. Our snow plows, our snow blowers, our sweepers, everything that the FAA generally funds for us, and they also say they have to store that equipment inside. As you can imagine, inside will keep and maintain the longevity of the useful life of these $1 million pieces of equipment. So what you see before you today is literally getting us shovels in the ground. The financing of the building, as well as the construction and administration of this building. We've shared some images. You've seen some of these 3D images in the past. This is not a spectacular building. It's a very basic premise to store some of all that equipment that I just mentioned. And then we shared the site plan as well, which has gone through the South Burlington process. This site plan is in the northwest area of the airport. So over by Airport Parkway, there's a sewage receiving station over there that's owned by South Burlington, just off of Patchen Road and Airport Parkway, again on the northwest side of the airport. So with that, Larry's just going to share some of the schedule and construction piece components of the project, and then Marie will finish it up with the financing, and then of course we can answer any questions.
Okay,
There were some pictures, right? Jesse had.
Do you want me to share some of the pictures?
sure, yeah. So yeah, I'll let you pull it up and then I'll do a quick technical review.
Alright, oh, can you guys see this?
Not yet.
It's coming up, I think.
There we go.
There we go.
I need to bring it over to. Sorry. Yeah. Right.
Okay, so as you can see, it's a pre-engineered steel building with a concrete slab. It's the building itself is just a little over an acre in size. It's surrounded by almost 3 acres of pavement for maneuvering those large vehicles. Every vehicle can drive in straight and drive out straight. There's no required backing, not to say that that won't happen, but everything's been designed so vehicles can just pull through this facility. The facility also includes a area for de-icing materials for up in the upper left-hand corner of this drawing. You see the whole truck back to that little building there. That's de-icing storage for de-icing runways and taxiways. There's an installation of a new underground stormwater treatment system. There's a new fuel station. Go back up a little bit. Okay, which will be to the right of the building, a fueling island. And there will be a brand new underground double wall full fuel tank where the truck will not have to go inside the secured area to deliver the fuel. Also including this is some improvements to the parking lot that we lease to Enterprise Rental Car. Because we're taking some of their space because our employees will park along that front line there that you see with the walkway to the building. We're adding a few more spaces. We're adding some, this was built before there were any stormwater requirements. So we've added stormwater treatment solutions to this parking lot. So in a nutshell, that's it. This is what we bid. We received 3 bids, one from Engelberth Construction, one from Farrington Construction, and one from DEW. Engelberth was the lowest responsive bid, and they're ready to go. We are finishing up contracts, and once Nick hopefully has authorization on July 14th, we'll move this project forward this year. It is a 1.5-year project total. There's a lot of earth moving and site work to do. There's a relocation of an existing underground FAA-owned cable. Yeah, you can see everything. This is the site, the plan that shows it all. So that we will enter into a contract with ECI. They'll have about a 1.5 years. It's 550 days or something to do the construction. We also, Passero Associates are the people who did the initial study to evaluate what we needed and how much space we needed. And then they did the design. They prepared the bid documents. We will now hire them to oversee construction from a construction administrative standpoint and a resident project representative. And so those are the 2 motions related to the project. And if you don't have if you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them or pass it on to Marie to talk about the funding or financing.
All right, Commissioners, anything on the construction of the building before it goes to Marie for the financing?
I just have a curious question. How do the construction, this is behind the fence, right? On the airport side, and the parking is outside the fence. How do the construction vehicles get through, and what kind of like safety precautions do we use with that?
Typical of other projects, we will put a temporary interim fence inside, and they will work from outside the secured area. And that fence will, on the outer edge near that split the property between the Enterprise facility and our new facility, will be taken down. That there's a portion of that embankment gets taken out, and everything will be on the unsecure side. And then once the project is complete, a new fence will be installed, and the secure area goes back basically where it was. And we'll have, an opening obviously for vehicles to drive in, but we'll have to go through security or have a badge or whatever. And employees will have to badge in at the gate outside of the building. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll talk about how we're gonna pay for this. So we're gonna pay for this. We put out an RFP. We've been working with, the city has financial advisors called PFM. We've been working with them to put together, since it was such a bigger project, that we had them help us put together the RFP. We went out for request for proposal for lease financing. That is a mechanism that works really well in this case. So we got back several bids. We were looking initially to do it up to a 20-year term. The best rate, we had 2 responsive bidders, but the best rate, the best package for us turned out to be a 15-year lease term. We are, I can tell you, because it's in here, it is with M&T Bank, and they have a presence locally as well. So we're always happy to work with people who have Vermont presence. They came back with we thought was a very reasonable and good package for us to do 15 years, and the interest rate is 4.88%. The way that this is, a lot of this is eligible, 85% of this is eligible to meet qualifications to be paid for with our PFC. That is our passenger facility funds that we collect, and it's eligible that we can use those monies that we're collecting from the airlines to pay for 85% of the lease, the principal and the interest that is going to come due over the next 15 years on this. So the remaining approximately 15% is going to be coming from airport funds. It'll be coming from what we call our airfield cost center. We'll be building it into that, and it will impact the rates and charges that we have in there. So that is how we're doing it. We're working to, we're working so that we have an application in right now that we submitted last week that went to the FAA. It's called a PFC application. It's number 10. It includes the SRE financing on the eligible portion that we have to ask for permission to impose, collect, and then use those funds appropriately. So we have done that in addition to some other local shares that we have on some of our most recent grants. So that application has gone through the process of consulting with the airlines and getting their support and buy-in, and now we've submitted that to the FAA, and they have a 30-day window to approve that, which we expect them to do. And then we'll looking to close in the middle of July on securing this lease financing so that we can begin construction, and we'll have permissions to sign all the contracts.
Yep.
We have a couple questions. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for walking us through that. So a couple things seem a little different than typical projects. Typically our big projects are FAA funded, right? Through FAA grants? Correct. Right. So this is not going through that model. I understand what you're saying about the PFC. So do you have a sense of like what the annual payment is going to be, the lease payment is going to be? Did I miss that in the? Yeah,
we've kind of run some preliminary. We're waiting for a final schedule to come from MTNT, and I don't have that yet, but
Okay.
It's looking to be about the 2.4 million something annually, annual payments for the next 15 years. Our initial projections when we were first putting this together and on our initial PFC application, we actually we're going to end up needing, because if we went out 20 years, and we also assumed a higher interest rate, we assumed an interest rate of 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
So we are actually going to be using less PFC than we projected. Now, back to your question, you're right. Most of the projects that we do up here, we've been very, very fortunate, including with this building, to get exceptional grant opportunities that have been able to pay for 90% of our projects. And then PFCs and state revenues pay for the remaining local share. This is different because there's only so much FAA funds and discretionary funds that are available each year. We have some that are part of our entitlement that we get and we can use. And then we have, but anything above that is what we call discretionary, and we have to prioritize. So when the FAA is looking at each and every airport that they have under their jurisdiction, while this building is eligible and is allowed for us to use up to 85% of that PFC, it's eligible under FAA rules and under the FAA handbook. It is not something that they have a bucket of money. They don't consider this their top priority. They consider things that are safety, runways and aprons and other matters. They consider that a much higher level. And it's all about, looking at that waterfall effect and that prioritization. So this is something we would have loved to receive the grant on. We had always hoped we would have maybe some. We have been working with our senators and congressmen. We have been trying with every avenue that we can for the last few years to
Got
see
it.
if there was monies available, but they're, at the end of the
Okay.
day, like to move forward. Yeah.
Got it.
And Jeff, just to add just a touch more to it, we could wait. We could wait many years and try to save our specifically entitlement funds to put
Mhm.
directly towards this. It would take us, what is that, about 14 years to save entitlement funds just to
Yeah.
do that. And like Marie said, we wouldn't be competing nationally for discretionary funds. And to wait means that the building that we currently utilize, which was built in the 1970s, it just can't handle what we need to anymore. We're getting more equipment, more requirements to maintain, of course, the runway and all that stuff. So it really is time to do it. One thing that we made sure that we got is no penalty for early payoff. So if there's ever an opportunity for grant funding or anything in the future, after I believe 2033, Marie, I think it was,
Yeah.
there is no additional penalty for payoff, which was important for in that context of grant funding.
Got it. Okay. So just so that I'm clear, so you're thinking about it'll cost us on an annual basis $2 million or so out of the
2.4
PFCs?
million in
Okay.
that ballpark.
And what
Yeah.
do we generate in PFCs on an annual basis typically? Do you know?
Oh, we're generating in excess of $3 million at this point.
Okay.
So we already have a pretty sizable amount of PFCs collected. So this is going to obligate our current PFC. Well, there go the lights. Our current PFC obligations, we've already like accumulated enough money to pay for all the revenue bond collections that we have upcoming through 2030. So we're collecting, we have quite a balance in there in our PFC monies already, and we obligate them, but it's going to obligate them out until 2038 is what it's going to do. So things that can change with that is, and we, you know, the number of employments helps that number, right? More money comes in.
Yeah.
And we are, we're seeing the highest number of seats coming. We can't predict what or guarantee, but we're seeing the airlines want to bring additional service here. They are increasing the amount of seats that they are offering here. We're seeing that when we report to each and every month, and we're seeing the number of tickets that are being sold increase. So there's all sorts of things that factor into it. If they were ever to increase the PFC, it's been at the same level. They collect $4.50 per ticket. If it ever were to increase, that would help us. But right now we'll be obligating our PFCs through 2038. So, you know,
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and I'm supportive of this, and I'm sure you've thought this all through. I'm just trying to make sure I understand it. You know, if we're taking up $2 million of 2.4 million of a $3 million, you know, kind of revenue that's generated annually from this, that's a good chunk of it. And so there's other things that we're not, and we already have some obligations against that, correct? That are ongoing.
Correct, we do.
So I guess my question for you all is like, what it, you know, and again, I know you've thought this through, but what are the things we're not going to be able to do given the decisions we're making about this?
I mean, the list could be endless on that conversation, Jeff. I want to give just a little bit of history of PFCs because it's not going to change this year, but we've been pushing for change for a long time on the national level. It's been $4.50 since 2000, the late 90s, 2000. And it really does need to be updated. I've signed my name and the airport's name to federal legislation to increase that dollar value. And that goes right up to employments, which, like Marie said, that both of those things would help the bottom line. What we can't buy, what we can't do is potentially some equipment in the future, some snow removal equipment, which is mostly what's eligible, some local share costs to some of the grant funds. But we're in a perfect space right now, in my opinion, to push this forward, to make sure that we build this building, to increase our passenger loads, of course. Just a sneak peek, 10 a.m. tomorrow, we have a very exciting announcement on that front. to push employments, to grow the airport, to increase collection dollar value so that it could go towards more projects. We're not the only airport in the country, certainly small hub airports that really require that. And with the payoff of our existing bond coming in just a few years, it opens up the door for a lot more opportunities for those types of purchases. And then the last piece of the puzzle is also pushing the conversation of fuel taxes that we've been talking about as well. There are multiple millions of dollars that are not being given back to the airport that really need to, that would help this conversation. So those don't exist now, but they're future program costs, that revenues that will come back to the airport. So with all of those components, this is why I really feel moving this forward this year is a critical time component.
Yeah, also.
Otherwise, we won't be able to build this for quite some time.
Also from a CIP perspective, with what we go through with the FAA, we are pausing our entitlement and saving that for our next priority project, which is centralized de-icing. Then the next major project after that would most likely be a runway 119 or secondary runway construction, which would be 5 or so years out. We're planning this. We've done a lot in the last several years to make sure our airfield is in great shape, as you know.
Yeah, and this allows us, gives us the authority that we can use those PFC dollars toward this payment. By 2033, if we decided to do something different, the finance is different, and we prefer, or it's more important to use those PFC dollars towards something else, we can always amend our PFC application and do something differently to pay for this building. It's not strapping us that way, but it gives us today the authority to do so. And we think it's worth the benefit of doing so is incredibly important, and the timing is incredibly important. But it's a good discussion, but just we talk about all of those avenues here internally, and all of those are considerations as we decide what and how and to obligate and how long to obligate.
Thanks for clarifying all that. I'm done with questions.
Okay, I'm gonna build on what Jeff said, because I have a couple follow-ups on that. So presumably at the end of the lease, we own this building, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And then when you mention, and I'm glad to hear that the prepayment clause was negotiated. That's really good. Marie, when you said 2038 is you said that's the date through which the PFC funds are committed through for this project?
Well, for this project and other projects that we have on this application as well. So there are even more, like we have local shares for the OLDC grant, the latest next grant. So we have other components as part of this. So it includes, we'll have collected all the funds. If we, so it's 2026 and we're doing a 15-year, which brings us to 2041. So by 2038, including this project, we'll have the money sitting in the PFC account to finish paying, if we don't do nothing different, to finish paying off those last couple of years. It'll all be collected and built up into the PFC fund, if that makes sense.
Is that based on a projection of employments through 2038?
Yes.
And are you
Yes.
assuming the 450 PFC rate stays
Yes.
as is? Okay, so it's conservative in that respect. Okay. But it does
and
mean
quite
that
conservative on employment projections as well.
So that does mean, to Jeff's earlier point, that there's no discretionary PFC funds available until 2039.
Yeah, or sometime in 2038.
Sometime in 2038, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Unless anything changes, like the $4.50 goes up or employments increase.
Correct.
Accurate, is that right?
Correct. Yep.
So that would I don't know if accelerate's the right word. It would make the 2038 deadline come earlier in that case. Might
Correct.
be 3, 4, or 5 years, depending on the magnitude of the change. But there still will be a stretch of the foreseeable future where there are no discretionary PFC funds available for other projects.
Correct.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to clarify. So thank you for that. Commissioners, any other thoughts or questions on this item? Go ahead, Chip.
Thanks, Tim. I guess my question for Nick is really not about the finances. I thank you for walking us through that, and Marie, that makes sense. I'm a little struggling with whether this is what you'd classify this as like a want versus a need. I mean, certainly it's a want, but then Nick, I also heard you say, you know, the regulatory, you know, demands are increasing. So, I mean, if this is like, it's obviously a no-brainer. Well, I won't say that. I mean, if it's a need, it's a no-brainer. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm trying to make sure I understand versus this is something we like, but we don't need it now.
Yeah. No, great point. Great question. I'll definitely say it loud and clear. This is a need for the airport.
Okay.
Most of our equipment that we've already used PFCs for, which then attaches that federal requirement to maintaining those pieces of equipment, we store those outside.
Yeah.
And they're quickly deteriorating because of that. So this is a need to maintain probably close to 15 million, $20 million, maybe pieces of equipment in total.
Thank you.
23 pieces of.
Commissioners,
Thank you.
any other comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Close down item 4, move on to item 5, commissioner items. I did not receive any commissioner items in advance, but do any commissioners have anything at this time that they wish to introduce?
Nope.
Hearing none, we move on to item 6, follow-up items. There's nothing on the list for today, so item 7 is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It is moved by Helen. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for taking special time on Tuesday for this
Thank
special
you.
meeting.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.